Mr. Nate, and I run the outdoor learning program at the CMP Carmichael campus. What is an outdoor learning program? Well, it really means that I like going on adventures, learning new things, and finding cool, weird stuff to look at out in nature. But what I really love is getting to take students just like you out on awesome adventures, so you get to share in the fun. Because the only thing better than a good adventure is getting to share it with a friend. Now, some of my friends from Carmichael already know me from the trips we get to take here at the Coobs Nature Center next to campus. But this year, because we're all doing distance learning right now, I'll be sharing some of my adventures and lessons online with students at all of the CMP campuses. As the year goes along, I'll have videos about places you and your family might go to have your own adventures, and I'll share some ideas about adventures you might have right in your own neighborhood or even in your own backyard. But first, let's talk about what's going on right now. So right now, we have to do our learning from home because of the COVID-19 pandemic. And you know what? I'll bet that feels a little bit scary for some of you. We don't want anyone in our family to get sick, and we don't want to get sick either, which is why we have to be at home right now to try to keep that sickness from spreading. But all of this is really frustrating too. We don't get to see our friends, we don't get to see our teachers, and being at home all the time just isn't very fun. Think about how you've been feeling for the past few weeks. Do you ever feel frustrated or discouraged? Maybe you feel anxious or nervous. Do you feel like it's hard to concentrate sometimes? Or maybe you just feel kind of wiggly inside, like you might just explode if you don't get up and jump up and down and run around in circles and make crazy faces and weird noises. Well, all of that is totally normal. In fact, that is how I feel being stuck inside so much, especially when I've been sitting in front of my computer or watching TV all day. I get all crazy feeling, and then I get grumpy and anxious, and whenever I get that way, that is when I know it's time to get outside and have an adventure. So, what do you think of when you hear the word adventure? I'll bet you have some ideas about what you think an adventure is supposed to be from things that you've seen in movies or TV. Well, when I go out for an adventure, sometimes those adventures are pretty big. I might go climb a big mountain or explore canyons way out in the desert, or ride my bicycle a really long way, or spend a night out camping in the snow. But most of my adventures are much smaller, like going for a walk down by the river, or riding my bike down to the local park, or even just seeing what's happening in my own backyard. So when I think about having an outdoor adventure, it doesn't have to be someplace really unusual or super far away. You really just have to go outside with your eyes open and be on the lookout to make new discoveries. That might mean finding something you've never noticed before, especially in places that you've been lots of times, like a local park or out in the yard. Other times, you might discover something new about things you've already seen 1,000 times, but you just never stop to look at it up close. There's a whole world of amazing stuff just waiting for you to discover it. Some of my most favorite adventure moments happen when I discover something new in places I didn't expect to find them. The key is that I had to take time to stop and really look. Otherwise, I probably wouldn't have noticed. So I'll give you an example. Every so often, I like to go out on bigger adventures into the desert. It can be really dry, and sometimes pretty hot. And it often looks like there just wouldn't be anything interesting to see. But if you just stop and start looking around, you can find amazing stuff. We found this cool little flower growing in the middle of what looked like a barren patch of gravel. If you weren't really looking, it would have been easy to miss it. And it turns out it has the perfect name. It's called a gravel ghost. And later that day, we found the biggest moth we had ever seen. That thing was about the size of my thumb. It turns out it's called a white-lined sphinx moth. And they're so big and so fast, people sometimes confuse them for hummingbirds. Just a little further way up the canyon from finding that moth, we found petroglyphs. Pictures and symbols carved in rock that were left by native tribes who used this canyon. Anthropologists, who are scientists who study ancient cultures, think some of these petroglyphs may be thousands of years old. None of these discoveries were things I had ever seen before, and with the gravel ghost and the Sphinx moth, I didn't even know they existed before we found them. It was a good adventure. But what made it a great adventure is that I got to share those discoveries with my family. Adventures are always better if you have someone to share them with. As I said before, you don't have to go someplace far away to have a good adventure. New discoveries and amazing things to see are just waiting for you to find them. You just have to start looking. You can start by having adventures in your neighborhood. The secret is to keep your eyes open and really look. Sometimes that means just sitting still for a few minutes in your own backyard. You never know what critters might show up if you just sit still and wait for a bit. Or maybe it's a walk down to your local park. Anywhere there's water, there's a good chance you'll find interesting things to see. This past spring, I walked down to a pond near my house and found these baby tree swallows huddled together on a branch. And just a few steps away, I spotted a snowy egret hunting for tadpoles in the marsh. You just don't know what you'll find until you start looking. It does take some practice and a little bit of patience, but it can be lots of fun. And it's good for you. When you're getting wiggly or feeling tired of being stuck at home or feel like you just can't concentrate enough to do another iReady lesson, that's the perfect time to go outside and have an adventure. So while we're still at home doing distance learning, it's going to be my job to come up with ideas for outdoor activities that you can try with your family. Sometimes that might be a video about places you might try visiting here in the local area. Sometimes that might be a lesson about plants or animals or insects that you can find in your own backyard or at a local park. I have a few projects that you might be able to try out at home, and maybe I might make a video or two about some of the bigger ventures that I like to go on, just so you can see what I'm up to. So be sure to come back and check in with me every week or so just to see what's new. And be sure to get outside and explore. You'll find way cool stuff, I promise. You just have to go looking.